6 spine-chilling ghosts caught on camera. Discover the sinister paranormal activity exposed. In the heart of Brookfield, a town wrapped in the embrace of whispering trees and manicured lawns, shadows lurked just beyond the everyday cheerfulness. It had the facade of a perfect, suburban life, a neighborhood where children laughed and neighbors exchanged warm smiles. But behind the gleaming windows, darkness brewed, unseen and insidious, waiting. 16-year-old Jess cradled the family video camera, alternating between anticipation and dread as she prepared to film another night in their troubled Victorian home. Flickering lights cast eerie shadows, and the older walls seemed to sigh under the weight of secrets long buried. She caught a glimpse of herself in the reflective screen, eyes wide, heart racing. That's when the door, creaking ever so slightly, swung open on its own, revealing nothing but an endless stretch of darkened hallway. The room felt colder, an unsettling chill she couldn't shake. "Is anyone there?" she called out, hoping her voice would shatter the oppressive silence. Her only answer was the flutter of an unseen breeze, ruffling the papers on the kitchen table. The footstep echoes in the stillness were like whispers of ghosts yearning to break free. Jess pressed record, her hands trembling, capturing the odd sleight of her surroundings. The sound of creaking floorboards resonated as another gust swept through. Shadows twisted and morphed, creating shapes that danced impossibly close, and she could swear she saw a silhouette at the end of the hall. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then came the nightmares. Whispers haunting her sleep, blurred faces looming larger, and once innocuous family photographs transforming into chilling portraits of ghostly figures. The stories of missing persons, buried in old news segments she discovered, twisted into her consciousness, like vines clawing at her sanity. She began to piece together connections, her innocent curiosity morphing into obsession. But Brookfield had its own way of handling things, or, more accurately, covering them up. The neighbors, once smiling, now eyed her with suspicion, the weight of their collective gaze heavy with judgment. Each day, Jess documented more peculiar incidents, doors shut forcefully, echoes of laughter that didn't belong, and chilling cold spots that would freeze her breath. It was the kind of madness that thrived in desperation. Their home felt alive, but not in a comforting way. With every turn of the camera, her life spiraled deeper into an abyss. The familiar faces of friends began to fade, whispers of that family trailing behind Jess like the specters she now chased. The secrets of Brookfield started wrapping themselves around her like an insidious vine, suffocating. And just when she thought she'd reached the peak of her fear, the vision emerged from shadow. The final footage showed a figure standing at the end of the hall, their features twisted and drawn with despair, a ghostly face she recognized too well. Jess gasped, the sound of her own horror echoing in the cramped space around her. Who was it? What terrible bond united them? The camera trembled in her grip as her heart thundered in her chest. Time stood still, the dread weighed on her shoulders, telling her that her fight, for her mom's sake and her life, was just beginning. As darkness pooled, Jess could only wonder, in revealing the world's hidden terrors, would she uncover the truth or let it consume her whole? The faint buzz of the old camera filled Jess's ears, a constant reminder of her solitude. Conflicting thoughts raced in her mind, prickly dread and relentless curiosity tugged at her equally. She clenched the camera tighter, fighting the rising panic as she slowly pointed the lens toward the darkened hallway again. Was that a trick of the light? Or was the figure still watching her? Tension settled over her like a heavy blanket. She stepped forward, each creak of the floorboards underfoot echoing louder than the last. The hallway yawned ahead, relentless in its darkness. The shadows deepened, thick and heavy. Just the shadows, she whispered to herself, her voice barely rising above a strangled breath. You can't be afraid of shadows. But even as the reassurance escaped, Jess felt the weight of eyes on her, unseen and cold. The camera remained steady, capturing each whisper of movement. Suddenly, a faint sound pierced the stillness, a soft sob, barely audible, like the echo of a lost child. Her heart stuttered. Who was crying? She thought of her mom, pictured her alone in the other room. Panic knotted in her stomach. In that instant, determination surged through her. She had come too far to turn back now. She had to face whatever specter lurked there. Perhaps it held the key to the family's secrets buried beneath layers of the mundane. Is someone there? Jess called out again, her voice stronger this time, emboldened by stubbornness. The silence returned. Her heart drummed in her ears as she willed herself deeper down the hallway. The air grew denser, each breath feeling constrained. Then a flicker. A twist in the corner of the camera viewfinder sent her pulse racing. She turned, aimed the camera, holding it with trembling hands, and let out a quick breath. There. A figure darted away, disappearing around the bend. The camera captured the fleeting glimpse, a pale reflection, hair dark and matted. The sobbing grew louder. Ignoring the instinct to recoil, Jess raced after it, footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. The sobs led her down the hallway, where the faded wallpaper peeled like an unwilling promise. The end of the hall loomed closer, a dark doorway gaping like a predator ready to swallow her whole. At the threshold, she paused, staring into the abyss. The sobbing stopped, leaving only the ominous silence, heavy like the air before a storm. Jess felt a cold drop slide down her spine. She took a step, then another, holding her breath, the camera reaching ahead like a lifeline into the shadows. Suddenly, a rush of freezing air slammed into her, nearly knocking her back. In that breath, out of the corner of her vision, she caught a flicker, a glimpse of the figure again, peering at her with hollow eyes full of sorrow. They wore a familiar brown dress, the very one her mother had worn in old family photographs. Jess's heart sank. Mama? She gasped, the name slipping from her lips like a plea. Yet as she spoke, the figure shimmered and began to dissolve like smoke on the wind. A feeling of loss washed over Jess. The air crackled with the charge of something unfathomable, the anticipation building until it felt like the close of a breath. Then came the laughter. Soft, sweet, then sinister, reverberating off the walls. It echoed in her mind. Jess stumbled back, terror bleeding into her veins. Her own laughter mingled with the sounds of her mother's sorrow. Was she losing grip on reality, or was she moving closer to uncovering hidden truths? As she stood there, paralyzed by fear, a single thought clawed at her sanity: the line between the living and the dead was thinning. In Brookfield, strange twists of fate awaited those who dared to delve too deep. With a shaky breath, Jess gathered her resolve. This was just the beginning, but would she be ready for what lay ahead? And then, through the eerie silence, came a voice, barely a whisper: "Come find me." What was stirring in the depths of darkness, waiting to be discovered? The shadows seemed to pulse around Jess as she steadied herself. Come find me. The voice echoed in her mind, wrapping around her heart like a vice. She turned back toward the hallway, the chill settling deeper into her bones. That soft sobbing, the likeness to her mother, what had she just witnessed? Taking a deep breath, she pressed the record button on the camera, the whir of the device filling the silence with a mechanical reassurance that felt oddly misplaced. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, but a fierce need to confront the truth propelled her forward. What if her mother wasn't just a memory? What if she was somehow intertwined with this haunting? As she crossed the threshold into the dark room, the air felt thicker. A musty scent choked her, heavy with decay and despair. She stepped cautiously, her footfalls muffled and cautious. Around her, wallpaper peeled and flaked, revealing obscured patterns that felt too intentional, as if they were hiding secrets worthy of the home's tragic past. Is anyone there? She called again, this time feeling the weight of desperation in her voice. Responses were met with penetrating silence, amplifying the pounding of her heart against her ribcage. She stood still, listening, hoping the sobs would return, guiding her deeper into the darkness. Then, from somewhere within the shadows of the room, a soft thud resonated, like a wooden toy dropped by a child. The sound burned through the silence, causing her to jump. She swung her camera in that direction, catching glimpses of dust motes swirling in beams of ghostly light filtering through a cracked windowpane. But the source of the noise remained shrouded in darkness. Jess had always thought of the world as two-dimensional, solid and easy to navigate. Now it felt as if reality was blending with something otherworldly. Panic bubbled up, but she stifled it. "Focus, Jess," she muttered, though her voice wavered. She had to know what lay hidden behind the veil of shadows. Advancing further, she felt the temperature drop, her breath visible in the chilling air. It pooled like fog in front of her. Fumbling with the camera, Jess concentrated on the distant corner where the shadows seemed to thicken and twist, almost alive. Just then, a soft, ghostly giggle echoed, ringing sweet yet sinister in her ears. "Come play with me." The voice was childlike, innocent but edged with an unsettling depth that made her skin crawl. Her heart raced as she turned to follow the sound. There, at the far corner of the room, stood a translucent figure, a girl with tangled hair wearing a white dress stained with dirt. Her eyes, dark and sunken, glimmered with an unsettling knowledge. "Who are you?" Jess managed to croak, desperately struggling to keep the tremor from her voice. "Come play." The girl's voice dissolved into laughter, the sound pealing like a bell, inviting yet laced with something darker. Jess felt her heart drop. Who was this spirit? What did she want? As the child began to glide toward her, the air around Jess thickened, pressing in and suffocating her instincts to flee. She was rooted, trapped in a silent battle between understanding and survival. The camera shook in her hands, her vision blurring with tears of fear. "Turn back." A distant voice screamed in her mind, her own, the embodiment of every doubt she had. "You don't know what you're getting into." The girl's laughter continued like a haunting melody, consuming the room. Jess was losing her grasp on reason, the veil between worlds growing slits as her heart beat wildly. "Come find me," the echo danced around her, spiraling her thoughts into chaos. Would she do it? Would she continue toward this unknown or flee into the secure hold of daylight? Suddenly, one thought broke through the cacophony. What if finding the girl was the only way to uncover the truth about her mother and this house? Steeling herself, Jess took a step forward. The girl's gaze locked onto hers, pleading yet daring. But just as she made her choice, the laugh twisted into a scream, reverberating off the walls. Jess's heart nearly stopped. "Help me." As the cry faded, shadows squirmed and swelled. Panic surged through Jess's veins. She was too deep now, entangled in this web of mysteries. And so, she ran toward the sound, willing to face whatever cruel truth awaited her. But the shadows weren't finished, they began to shift, taking on the form of figures lost to time. What lay ahead? Something ancient seemed poised to reveal its ferocity. Jess, the whisper lingered, innocent yet menacing. "You aren't ready." What darkness awaited her in the next room, ready to unleash its story? The air was sharp as Jess pushed into the next room, her heart pounding loud enough to drown out all other sounds. Shapes flickered at the edges of her vision, dancing on the periphery as she stepped inside. The walls were smeared with grime, ancient and dark, twisting the room into a grotesque reflection of a forgotten past. "Just one more step," she whispered to herself, though it felt more like an incantation than a reassurance. Her camera illuminated the muted interior, but the light seemed to evaporate before reaching distant corners. It felt wrong. Shadows clung to the space like desperate hands, each set to pull her deeper into the abyss. "Come play." The voice, eerily identical to the girl's, floated through the room again, sweet and playful, yet chilling. Jess's throat tightened. She could almost hear the slap of small feet on the floorboards, or perhaps just the whisper of her imagination. Warily, she approached a small table in the center, cluttered with old toy sticks, marbles, and a broken doll with one eye missing. It stared at Jess with a mocking gaze. Shivers crawled along her spine, triggering memories of her own childhood. What had she walked into? Beside the table, a frayed rug lay curled at the edges, almost alive with secrets of its own. Jess bent down, fingers itching to touch the fibers, wanting to know what lay stuck in the fibers. Just as she touched it, a surge of cold coursed through her, the sensation wrapping around her like icy chains. Jess. The voice was louder now, more frantic. Help me. It carried a palpable desperation, echoing in her skull and urging her to act. But help who? The girl? Her mother? The boundaries of her thoughts blurred as she wrestled with conflicting emotions. Then she heard a creaking noise behind her, a slow groan as if the house itself was awakening. Jess spun around, camera ready, but the darkness only deepened. The shadows twisted, condensing into shapes. Hunched forms lurked just beyond the reach of her light. Stop, she gasped, stepping back instinctively. I'm not here to harm anyone. But the shadows advanced, swirling with urgency, powerful and menacing. The air grew thick, choked with ancient grief. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the gloom, a man, his face gaunt and hollow, eyes brimming with an unbearable sorrow. You shouldn't be here, he rasped, words laced with palpable dread. It's not safe. Who are you? Jess squeaked, fear clutching her throat. What do you want? He paused, the weight of memory shining in his sunken gaze. You need to leave. These spirits, they're hungry. His hand lifted as shadows danced at his feet, stretching like claws eager to ensnare her. Feeling the visceral pull of terror, Jess stumbled back, colliding with the table. The doll fell, and the sound shattered the eerie silence. But before she could breathe, the shadows surged forward, wrapping around her like a tightening coil. Help me. The girl's voice screamed, rising in pitch. It echoed against her mind, drowning out all reason. You have to find me. Don't let them take you. With her heart racing in her chest, Jess deliberately turned the camera toward the man. The light flickered against his trembling form, revealing messages carved into the walls, a gallery of anguish, a mosaic of lost lives. All are trapped, he urged, his flesh retreating slowly as the shadows clawed at him. You must understand. Suddenly, the pressure eased. The shadows receded, momentarily withdrawing as if threatened by Jess's determination. She could feel the weight of countless eyes watching from the darkness. The closer she got to understanding, the narrower her escape became. Jess fumbled with her camera. Why are you all here? She shouted, heart thrumming wildly. What do you want? Release, he gasped as the shadows roared back, engulfing him. A pain-infused scream erupted before silence reclaimed the room. Heart racing, Jess turned, the pull toward the girl becoming unbearable. I'm coming. She cried, driven by a strange mixture of dread and resolve. And then, as if conjured by her thoughts, another loud thud echoed, racing through the room from behind her. It was heavier, more deliberate. In that moment, Jess's breath caught as she realized, it was closing in. The house was alive, hungry. A sinister crescendo began to build as shadows shifted again, eager to spring their trap. She didn't have time. Jess felt the walls closing around her. Find me. A chorus of voices chimed serenely, each infused with a longing that sliced through her sanity. With her pulse roaring in her ears, Jess took off toward the heart of the specter, that child's laughter still lingering at the edges of her mind. What truth awaited her in the depths of despair? And what price would she pay for it? Just as the shadows lunged, she already knew, one way or another, the threads of fate were woven together and she was sprinting right toward them. Jess ran, her feet pounding against the splintered floorboards, their groans harmonizing with the frantic beat of her heart. The shadows writhed, hungry tendrils searching for any scrap of warmth, clawing at the air filled with suffocating dread. Every breath grew labored, the very atmosphere choking her resolve. Find me. The girl's voice rang louder now, desperation slicing through Jess's fog of terror. It promised hope, but the looming darkness felt like a tightening noose. Jess skidded to a halt, her camera's beam sweeping over the surrounding walls. The hunting grounds of lost souls closed in, and the air grew thick with sorrow. She panned slowly, desperate for a sign, something tangible to grasp onto amidst the spiraling chaos. The camera flickered. Don't fail me now, she muttered, pressing buttons as if coaxing a frightened animal. She glimpsed fleeting images in her frame, a shadow darting across the wall, the ghostly outline of a girl in a long dress peeking from a doorway. A chill surged through her body. "This can't be real," she murmured. Yet deep down, she knew it was. And she was tethered to this horrible truth. A low whisper echoed, wrapping around her like a cold shroud. "Jess, help us." "Who?" she yelled, spinning around. The walls trembled, and a childlike giggle pierced her eardrums, dissonant in the heavy silence. Below her feet, the frayed rug quivered as if sharing in her terror, reminding her of its malicious allure. With a fierce determination, Jess tore away from the table and followed the whims of that haunting voice. Her light bounced against the walls, illuminating the fragmented remnants of a shattered existence, a room filled with resentful memories, the essence of something that once was. Suddenly, the atmosphere flipped. The girl's voice morphed. "You shouldn't have come," it reverberated, echoing around her. The shadows swirled violently, converging on her like a rushing tide. "No!" Jess shouted, stumbling backward as fingers of darkness reached for her, cold and predatory. She could see them now, faces in the shadows, mouths twisted in expressions of unspeakable agony. They were trapped, encaged in an existence that mirrored her own darkest fears. "Help us!" The voices cried out in tandem, a symphony of sorrow interwoven with rage. These lost souls pleaded, their faces began to twist into grotesque forms, eyes like black voids. They were begging for salvation, but their desperation made them terrifying. "Get away!" Panic stirred within her, and she swung the camera wildly, trying to capture them, hoping to document the horror for someone, anyone, to believe her. She pressed the shutter, the click echoing as though it chastised the darkness. Laughter erupted, a cacophony of jubilance interspersed with screams that sent her heart racing. She backed into a wall, the boundary between life and the unknown becoming dangerously thin. "Help the girl," a voice whispered. "Or they will take you." The urgency gripped Jess tightly, squeezing her chest. "Where?" she gasped, breathing harshly. The shadows danced closer, growing bold, licking at her shoes and swirling around her ankles. And then, she caught a glimpse, a flicker of white fabric darting around the corner, moving swiftly away from her. "This way!" Jess cried, chasing after the flicker with renewed energy, but the shadows erupted, blocking her path. "No!" A sob caught in her throat as they surged forward. They weren't just looking for her, they wanted to drag her into their torment. With sheer disbelief, Jess lunged forward, fueled by a raw instinct to survive. She couldn't let them take her. She wouldn't be just another lost soul. "Help me find her," she pleaded to the haunting forms, feeling the intensity of their despair. "The price is high," a voice murmured, shadows coiling around her as the girl's giggle echoed ominously. And in that moment, Jess realized she was no longer just a spectator, she was part of their haunting dance. The darkness was hungry, alive, and it demanded a sacrifice. As she pressed into the next room, Jess noticed the laughter had faded, replaced by a chilling silence that draped over her like a shroud. It was a new darkness, deeper, and an icy fear settled in her gut. "Where are you?" she called softly, pulse thrumming in anticipation. But the only answer was a faint echo of her own voice bouncing back, mocking her. Something stirred in the silence, an unseen force filling the void. The girl was close, and Jess felt it too, a sinister promise lurking in the shadows, waiting. "Find me," came the whisper again, softer now, luring her deeper into uncertainty. Was it a plea? A trap? Jess didn't have much time to consider. With shadows creeping closer, she braced herself for whatever awaited her on the other side, knowing only that she was irrevocably drawn into the web. What lay ahead in that inviting darkness? Would she find the girl or become one of them? The air was thick, almost palpable, as Jess stepped cautiously into the next room. A low hum vibrated through the walls, like a warning bell chiming in the distance. Her heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears, drowning out the whisper urging her to find the girl. The light from her camera flickered ominously, casting erratic shadows that seemed to breathe with a life of their own. As she moved deeper into the room, Jess felt a cold shiver race down her spine. The walls were adorned with frayed wallpaper, peeling at the edges like a forgotten memory. Dull, faded photographs hung at odd angles, their eyes following her every movement, gaunt faces twisted in grief. "Find me," the voice lilted again, more insistent this time, like a playful taunt from just beyond the veil of sanity. "Where are you?" Jess called, her voice trembling. The shadows responded with a rustle, and a gust of wind swept through, extinguishing her camera's beam. Panic bubbled inside her, darkness closed in like a vice. She fumbled, a desperate attempt to restore light, her fingers shaking over the buttons, but the device refused. "No, come on." And then, from the depths of the darkness, a fleeting image, a glimpse of white fabric, gliding past her like a ghostly wisp. "Over here." Fueled by fear and a desperate need to escape the ever-encroaching void, Jess darted toward the apparition. Every step felt heavier, as if the shadows were trying to latch onto her, several unseen hands grasping her ankles. She could feel the pull suffocating and sinister. "Help me!" The sound was closer now, a child's voice shaking with fear. It pierced through Jess's heart, igniting her resolve. "I'm coming," she shouted, not entirely sure who she was trying to convince. With newfound urgency, she swung back around a corner, nearly colliding with a tall mirror that stood against the wall, its surface reflecting her wild-eyed visage, the girl in the photograph, the one who had been watching her. Jess's heart skipped a beat. The girl was she trapped behind the glass? The mirror felt cold as she reached out, fingers pressing against the icy surface. She could see the child's panicked eyes staring back, dark and pleading. "Help me!" But something was wrong. The reflection was unfurling, becoming distended. The girl's mouth opened, a silent scream stretching wide, the surface of the mirror rippling as if it were water. Jess stumbled back, fear clawing at her throat, fighting the urge to recoil. "Help her!" the whispers urged in unison, the shadows swirling closer. "Or pay the price." The warning rang in her mind as she scanned the room, searching for a way to free the girl. There, in the corner, lay an ancient-looking box, intricately carved but coated in dust, remnants of years long gone. Was this the key? She hesitated, though. The shadows were swirling, growing restless, their whispers intensifying, filling the air with despair and rage. "You shouldn't have come here," they taunted, each voice heavy with loss. "You can leave." "But she will stay." The choice hung heavy. Jess's heart pounded as she reached for the box. "Help her." The cry sent a shudder through her, mingling with the shadows that reached for her once more. As the box clicked open, time seemed to collapse. A light erupted from within, piercing through the darkness. Jess's eyes widened as the room transformed, purples and blues swirling around her, the shadows writhing and screaming in agony, unable to bear the light. "What is happening?" she gasped, clutching the box tighter. The girl in the mirror's reflection morphed into something terrifying, shadows clawing their way towards her in frantic desperation, leaving no escape route. Jess felt it, the weight of a decision, a dark temptation. Would she bargain her own freedom for another's life? The shadows were closing in, angry growls reverberating in the air, promising pain if she didn't act fast. "Help her. Or they will take you too." Jess trembled under the pressing fear, the box humming with a potent energy. In that breathless moment, Jess knew she had to choose. But as she opened her mouth to make the desperate promise, the room pulsed with a terrifying brightness, blinding her in a wash of chaotic energy. And then, silence enveloped her like a thick fog. What had she unleashed? Would she find the girl or succumb to the dark fate that awaited her? Light fractured in chaotic patterns, plunging Jess into an abyss of confusion. The warmth that had flooded the room was snuffed out as quickly as it had come. The silence, once comforting, now dripped with an oppressive weight, wrapping around her like a shroud. She could feel the almost imperceptible hum still echoing in her bones, a reminder of the terrible choice she had nearly made. "Hello?" Jess called, her voice barely a whisper, swallowed by the void. The shadows shifted, whispering in hushed tones, their words dripping with malice. She could barely make out phrases that clawed at her sanity. You shouldn't have, you will pay. The very air felt charged with a deep, menacing energy. Where was the girl? Had she lost everything by even contemplating that cursed promise? Stirring from her daze, Jess peered into the gloom. Visibility had faded to almost nothing, the space feeling monstrous in its emptiness. She lifted her trembling hands, feelings of dread coiling tight in her gut. She had no idea what she had released, only that it wasn't finished with her yet. With a shaky breath, she ventured deeper into the room, the dust swirling around her in ghostly visible tendrils. Each footfall sounded like a thunderclap in her ears, a startling contrast to the deadly silence. Battling the rising sense of panic, she felt her resolve waver. "Please," she murmured. "Show me where you are." As if in response, a frigid breeze brushed past her, stirring her hair like fingers against her scalp. Chills skittered down her spine as her heart raced. This was no friendly guide. Each corner of the room seemed to pulsate with a life of its own, the darkness lurking with malicious intent. "Help me," the voice came again, distant yet clear, echoing from the depths of the shadows. Jess turned sharply, eyes darting about. "I'm here. I'm coming," she shouted, trying to project courage she didn't feel. But then the whisperings rose again, louder this time. "Leave her. She is ours." Just then, the floorboards creaked under her feet, a warning before an unseen force tugged at her ankles. Jess gasped, fighting against the pressure, her limbs refusing to obey her as terror gripped her tightly. Straining against the invisible hands, she stumbled toward the mirror, remnants of the light still shimmering where the box had opened. Her breath caught as she noticed a change. The reflection was no longer distorted. The girl stood clearly, eyes wide and pleading, trapped behind the glass. "Please, help me. They won't let me go. What do I do?" Jess cried out, desperation bubbling to the surface. Just then, the mirror rippled again, the girl reaching out as far as she could. "You must believe. You have to fix it. It's all connected." "Connected?" Jess pulled back, her fingers hovering above the mirror's surface, heart racing. How could she fix something she didn't even understand? With a deep breath, she steadied herself, recalling fragments of the earlier whispers. Help her? But how? She searched the room again, her pulse echoing in the thick air. A flicker of movement caught her eye behind the mirror, a shadow darker than the night itself, lurking just beyond the edges of reality. It hovered there, waiting, watching her every move. The atmosphere shifted. The shadows were circling now, forming a thick, monstrous barrier, cutting off her escape. Jess felt a pulse of cold sweep through her, laden with the weight of dread. "Make your choice." The voice boomed, a cacophony of wicked laughter rippling through the darkness. "Or be devoured." The ultimatum cut through her like a blade. Jess felt it close in, that sense of doom as panic spilled over. She needed to act, but could she trust the girl? Or would this be the dark deception that seals her fate, leaving her trapped forever? One more push. What was it going to be? As Jess raised her hand, the ground shook beneath her, and the air crackled with an energy she couldn't comprehend. The shadows raged with fury around her, their whispers tinged with a chilling urgency. And just then, in that fevered moment, she knew she had to confront the darkness. The question lingered, heavy and foreboding. Could she pierce the veil and rescue the girl before it consumed her too? She could feel the shadows closing in, suffocating her with fear. Jess's breath quickened as she felt the weight of choice pressing down on her. A surge of defiance coursed through her, and she pressed her palm against the glass. "Show me," she shouted, feeling the crackle of energy between her hand and the mirror's eerie surface. For a second, the girl's pleading eyes widened, hope blooming like a fractured flower. But then the shadows shifted again, the darkness swirling angrily. "No," came the frantic voice of the girl, muffled but clear. "Don't touch it." But it was too late. The moment Jess made contact, the mirror quivered violently. A sharp, dazzling pain shot through her veins, sending her staggering backward. Cold rushed over her, dragging her down as screams echoed all around. The whispers sharpened into raspy, vengeful voices that clawed at her sanity. "You've awakened us," they hissed, reverberating through the chamber like a haunting requiem. Jess dropped to her knees, the floor beneath her feeling alive, pulsing with a sinister heartbeat. "No," she gasped, struggling to make sense of it all. A memory flickered in her mind, the girl's last words. It's all connected suddenly. The girl's face swam into focus again, clearer than before, though the shadows clawed at her from behind. Jess felt an overwhelming pull toward her. The desperate need to save her clashed against the fear of being pulled into the abyss herself. "Find the link. There's a reason," the girl shouted, tears streaming down her ethereal face, fear blending with hope. "Before it's too late." Each word rattled Jess, shaking her core with truth. The room shifted, the walls trembling as Jess summoned her courage. She stood, steadied herself, and cried out, "What do I need to do?" The shadows seemed to recoil, their whispers falling to a dangerous hush. They were wary, sensing her resolve, and the atmosphere felt thick with impending chaos. Jess glanced around, eyes darting from the mirror to the spirals of darkness surrounding her. There had to be something here, a clue, a remnant of the past that would bridge the gap between them. Her heart raced, visions flashing before her. She remembered a story she had read, a tale of a mirror binding souls, a conduit of grief and longing. But who had been bound? "What are you?" she shouted into the darkness, demanding answers. Just then, a flicker of light startled her. It refracted through the glass as if responding. The surface shimmered, and within it, a fog of shadow stirred. The girl's face twisted in fear, and Jess dared to take a step forward. "Define your purpose." The air grew dense as a shape began to coalesce behind the girl. A figure emerged, dressed in tattered robes that dripped like a waterfall of night. Its eyes blazed with fury, locking onto Jess with an intensity that made her bones tremble. "Foolish girl," it sneered, voice a low growl that rattled the mirrors. "You disturb what should not be disturbed. You will pay for her escape." Raw terror gripped Jess. The girl's eyes pleaded, but the dark figure's presence was suffocating, drowning out every last shard of hope. Jess staggered back, yet the energy within her surged again. She could feel the weight of history behind her, a collision of the past and present. "Not if I can help it," Jess shouted defiantly, her hands balling into fists. "I will save her. I will find the connection." At that moment, the mirror shattered, sending shards glimmering like glassy daggers across the room. The crash echoed, drowning out the whispers. All at once, the air flickered with electricity as if reality itself was a taut string, about to snap. "What have you done?" the figure roared, its form flickering in the chaos as Jess braced herself for what was to come. A new urgency pulsed through her. She had to dive deeper, uncover whatever dark truth tied the girl to this hellish void. The shadows writhed in a fury of twisted faces and unending pain. Jess stared defiantly into that abyss, feeling adrift yet anchored by purpose. But the relentless whispers had returned, drowning her spirits. Twisting truth and lie. Embrace the void, or be consumed. Jess's heart raced wildly in her chest as she discerned a faint figure in the depths, warped and haunting, but familiar. "What is it?" she screamed, voice breaking against the tide of darkness. "Find me before it's too late." Another choice awaited her, hovering just beyond her reach. Would Jess have the strength to uncover the truth, or would she succumb to the very terror she sought to escape? And as the shadows coiled tighter, she braced for the next devastating twist ahead. The remnants of the shattered mirror lay scattered across the room, gleaming shards catching ghostly glimmers of light. Jess's pulse hammered in her ears, a relentless drum of panic and resolve. The dark figure loomed closer, its menacing eyes narrowing, blazing with pure malice. "Your arrogance will lead to darkness your own," it growled, shifting closer through the swirling shadows. Jess felt the air grow thicker, a miasma of despair that pressed against her like a vice. "Back away," she shouted, but her voice felt small, lost among the chaos. The whispers intensified, a cacophony of dread. They seemed to encircle her, taunting her with every grain of fear buried deep within. "Find me!" The girl's voice, an echo of urgency, penetrated Jess's mind, mingling with the darker chorus. She narrowed her focus, blocking out the shrieks and twists of the shadows. With trembling hands, Jess picked up a shard of the mirror, its edge gleaming ominously. "If you're so powerful, what's your name?" she shouted defiantly at the figure, clutching the shard like a lifeline. The figure recoiled for just a moment, and Jess saw a flicker of uncertainty cross its face. "You dare to call me?" it hissed, the shadows flickering around it like flames. "You will wish you hadn't." Jess could hardly breathe, racing thoughts pushing her towards something she hadn't dared consider before. What if she had to confront it, not with force, but with the very bond it needed to keep her trapped? "Show yourself in the light," she demanded, remembering the faint glimmer of the girl's spirit. The darkness around her rippled, as if the figure were considering her challenge. Jess felt an unnatural pull toward the heart of the chaos, toward that dark pool swirling in the center of the room. In that instant, the girl's face saturated her vision again, determination shone through her ethereal countenance. "The truth is your only weapon." Jess squeezed her eyes shut, channeling that truth through the shard. She felt the glass grow warm in her hand, radiating a light of its own, a stark contrast to the oppressive shadows. "I will find you," she cried, and the words echoed back, vibrating through the darkness. "Fool!" the figure raged, its voice rising. The shadows twisted violently, refusing to be quelled. But Jess felt a shift, a movement in the air around her that suggested weakness in the creature's form. "Why were you bound?" Jess shouted into the abyss, her voice straining against her fear. "What holds you? What's your pain?" For a heartbeat, a silence stretched and the shadows faltered, revealing glimpses of the past, fragile memories laced with sorrow. Faces twisted in despair, flashing before her like poltergeist specters. But among them, she spotted a flicker of recognition, a girl with familiar features, a mirror image of the one trapped behind the glass. "Is it you?" Jess cried out, her chest constricting with realization. "Are you the reason?" In that moment, the dark figure let out a howl of rage that resonated through her very bones. "You know nothing, girl. Your meddling will bring only doom." Suddenly, the pain surged through her, every harsh whisper coiling tighter, driving shards of fear into her veins. Jess staggered, dropping the mirror's shard. She gasped, clutching her chest as warmth began to seep from her heart, fragments of her own fear breaking free into the chilling air around her. The shadows dissipated slightly, and for an instant, the figure faltered. You will pay." It spat, desperately trying to reel itself back to power. But Jess sensed a crack in its hold, the remnants of something almost human now revealed. "Let her go. Let me help," she yelled recklessly, not aware of what spilling out of her mouth might unleash. The figure lunged forward, a shadowy mass colliding with Jess. A horrifying shriek echoed, drowning her senses, filling her with darkness. Then everything dissolved into colorless fog, and she was falling, faster and faster into the beckoning void. "Find me before it's too late," the girl's voice echoed one last time, tugging Jess deeper into the abyss, and fear gripped her. As Jess fell, reality twisted around her, unraveling in a dizzying display. She was trapped between worlds, between the living and those forever lost. Was she doomed to join them, or could she forge a path back to the light? Questions rolled in her mind like thunder. Whatever it took, she had to discover the truth. As she fought against the consuming darkness, one last thought pierced her resolve. Time is running out. What awaited her in this unfathomable void? And would she be strong enough to uncover the key to untangling the bond that chains so many souls? The void shimmered with shadows, and Jess felt herself suspended in an inky abyss, filled with whispers that crawled along her skin like icy fingers. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum, urging her to act. But which way? Which doors could lead her out? "Find me." Even the words felt heavy, weighted down by fear, echoing in her mind with a haunting urgency. The girl's face lingered, her eyes flickering through the darkness like a lighthouse in a storm, guiding Jess towards something unknown but necessary. With a deep breath, Jess fought against the cold that seeped into her bones. I'm coming. She shouted defiantly, a battle cry against the invisible forces that sought to crush her spirit. Suddenly, a bright light ignited in the distance, refracting off the fractured pieces of shattered glass that hung suspended around her. Was this the portal back to her world, or the essence of the spirits trapped for so long? As she moved toward the light, a surge of warmth enveloped her. The darkness hissed and recoiled, shadows swirling in a chaotic dance trying to block her path. Leave her be. She'll forget. The malevolent voices shrieked, confusion and anger blending to create a discordant melody of dread. No. Jess shouted back, her voice steady, cutting through the fear. I will not let you take her from me. The thought of that girl of life before despair burned bright in her mind. She couldn't back down now. With each step, the light brightened, illuminating faces trapped in the gloom. Ghostly figures reached out, their fingers brushed along her arms, despair filling their eyes. Help us. Help her. They cried, merging into a cacophony that clawed her heart. Tell me how. Jess pleaded, grounding her feet in sheer determination. What do I need to do? A soft glow began to radiate from her, a tether drawing energy from the shards of the broken mirror scattered across the space. She envisioned the girl from the depths, intertwined with the sorrow of countless lost souls. You won't be forgotten, she vowed, each word laced with fierce promise. Then she saw a pulsing light at the center of the chaos, where all the dark threads converged. Jess took a deep breath and lunged toward it. The shadows clawed at her, their wretched whispers became screams of anguish, unraveling until they transformed into a symphonic wail of horror. You cannot break the bond. They screamed, panic surging through their cries. Watch me. Jess proclaimed as she reached for the shimmering core. In that final attempt, she felt an insatiable power surge through her. Clenching her fist around the warmth, she felt the fabric of despair loosen, threads of darkness unfurling like moths fluttering away from bright flames. Time dilated as she reached for the light, feeling the energy pulsate in sync with her heartbeat, every breath resonating with purpose. You don't get to decide who lives or dies. The power flared, illuminating her surroundings and shredding the deafening darkness. For an instant, everything went silent, a stillness so profound it heightened her senses. She closed her eyes tightly, recalling the girl's essence locked behind the glass, the certainty burning in the core of her soul. I shall free you. Jess shouted, releasing her spirit into the glimmering light. The light erupted. Reality twisted and twinkled, illuminating the souls caught in its destructive cycle. Shadow after shadow fled as the warmth filled the room, unraveling their chains. Freedom cloaked them like gentle tendrils of warmth caressing lost souls. Jess felt the pull grow stronger, vibrating through her veins, awakening a sense of clarity and purpose she had thought long gone. Escape is close. She murmured, feeling the weight of ages lift from her shoulders. She could see them filtering into the light, each face transforming from dreaded expressions of loss to sparkles of hope. And then she felt it, the girl. The radiant energy enveloped Jess entirely. A whirlwind of anguish and sorrow melted away, and in that incandescent heart, Jess could see the truth, clearer than ever before. Thank you. The girl's voice rang out, echoing with joy as she emerged, transcending the darkness. You've released us. With a final burst, Jess stumbled sideways, feeling an arm grasp hers. The girl. Together, they burst through the core of tangled light, spiraling out into freedom. As dawn broke, spilling light across the once dreary house, Jess faltered, blinking at the sunlight that filled her family home. She gasped, heart racing, warmth washing over her, realizing the shadows had dissipated. The burden of her family's pain had been lifted. The girl stood beside her, real and alive. Thank you, she breathed, a genuine smile illuminating her pale features. You freed us. Wait. Jess cried, heart racing with a new surge of fear. What happens to you now? I'll find my place, the girl promised, gaze shifting toward the golden sunrise. You showed bravery. Your light will guide you through life. Remember me when you need strength. Jess's chest tightened, but she managed a nod. I won't forget this. I promise. And as they parted, Jess felt her heart swell with understanding. Darkness would always loom around corners, but she could rise above it, carrying the weight of their shared history not as a burden, but as a reminder of the power of courage. She returned the camera to its place, a testament to the shadows that could haunt and heal. With a deep breath, she stepped outside into the beautiful light, finally free to live, laugh, and remember those she had fought so desperately to save. For Jess, each moment was no longer just a reminder of terror, but a radiant lesson in hope and resilience. Now, this is a brand new beginning. If you're moved by Jess's incredible journey, you need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories waiting to be unearthed. You must smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and keep these amazing tales alive. And remember to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what you just witnessed. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who crave thrilling conclusions like this one. Your support is vital. True fans understand the power of coming together to share experiences. Let us keep the light shining.